Well, welcome everyone to the Savvy Sales Lady Live. I'm Christine Harrington, but you know that, don't you? Thank you for taking a little bit of your day and time to find out how you can handle sales burnout. Now, we're going to take this a little slower than I usually do on these lives because I'm hearing from a lot of people that they're feeling this sales burnout. Why? Because it's approaching the end of the year. Sales quotas are expected in by the end of the year. In the middle of that, there's the holidays. So there's a lot of stress that's ratcheting up for salespeople across the world when it comes to the end of the year. So I'm glad you're here. I see we have viewers. If you will tell me in the comments where you're viewing from, I would love to know. And be sure and post any comments or questions. I'll handle them while we're live and make sure I get your questions answered. Okay. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let me get my notes. So if you're listening right now and you're already feeling completely drained, questioning whether you're even cut out for sales, I hear this so much. Or how many of you are hitting the snooze button 5 or more times because you just can't handle another day of prospects telling you no? Anybody hearing that? I get it. I've been there. I'm going to help you climb out of that dark place because it can get dark. Do you know most of the people that come to me for sales coaching are experienced salespeople that have hit a slump? I get a lot of that coming my way, or salespeople that are maybe 1 or 2 years and they don't feel like they're cut out for selling. A lot of times it's because of the rejection and it's because of mindset, and they start to feel this burnout. Well, studies show that over 67% of sales professionals experience burnout. 67% at some point in their careers. That's huge. That's not a you problem. That's an industry problem. But here's the good news. Burnout doesn't have to be permanent. And it doesn't mean you need to quit sales forever. So before we jump in, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss any of my live free trainings that can help transform your sales career. And if this video helped you today, just drop me a comment and let me know. I would love to hear what your thoughts are. All right, let's conquer this burnout together with my proven 4-step framework. Here it is, the 4-step framework. Actually, it's the 4 R's. Recognize, restructure, reconnect, and rest. So let's go through every one of these, okay, to help you. So what is sales burnout? Well, first, let's get crystal clear on what we're dealing with. Sales burnout isn't just having a bad day or a slow month. It's this chronic exhaustion, physical, emotional, and mental, that comes from prolonged stress in your sales role. The warning signs usually are physical exhaustion, emotional detachment. Let me go back to physical exhaustion for a minute. This is when you're tired all the time, no matter how much you sleep. It's like when the alarm goes off, you just don't want to get out of bed because you're tired. That's physical exhaustion. Now, emotional detachment, that happens when you don't care about your prospects. You don't care about your pipeline. You don't care about hitting quota. You have quietly quit and didn't tell your boss. Then there's reduced performance. Your numbers are dropping and you can't seem to get traction. No matter what you do, you can't seem to get traction. Then cynicism comes out in you. You've become negative about sales, your company, and your abilities. And this is where salespeople go wrong. And we'll dive into this a little more. Then you have a loss of motivation. The passion that once drove you has completely vanished. Does that sound familiar? Here's what you need to understand about all of this. Burnout happens when your stress response is constantly activated without adequate recovery time. In sales, we're facing rejection daily, managing demanding clients, hitting aggressive quotas, or if you work for one of these companies that changes quotas all the time, that in itself can be stressful. And you're often working in high pressure environments. It's a recipe for burnout if we don't actively protect ourselves. So here's the great news. You can recover. And that's exactly what we're about to do. So in step one, as you can see, it's about recognizing the sign. Okay? Recognizing the signs. But you also want to acknowledge the burnout. It's one thing to recognize, but you want to acknowledge it as well. So you may think to yourself, well, this seems obvious. But as I said, you have to actually acknowledge what's happening. So many salespeople just try to push through burnout like it's a weakness. Spoiler alert, it's not a weakness. Recognition requires brutal honesty. And I want you to pause this video right now. Well, don't actually pause it, but I want you to ask yourself these questions. Write this down so after the video is over, you can go back and answer these questions, okay? The first one is, have I been operating in survival mode rather than thriving mode? That's a yes or a no. Have you been operating in survival and not thrival mode? Yes or no? Ask yourself, am I constantly irritable with prospects, colleagues, or loved ones, especially your loved ones? When we're highly stressed, and we're in survival mode, we often lash out at our loved ones first. Are you finding yourself doing that? Have you lost the excitement you once felt about closing deals? Has it become like you just don't even care anymore if you close them or not? Especially the ones that are a little harder. You're fine with closing the easy deals, but when it comes to the effort to put in to some of those harder deals, are you just losing all the excitement to close those? Then ask yourself this: am I using unhealthy coping mechanisms like excessive drinking, emotional eating, or what I used to do, retail therapy? If you find yourself doing any of those, would you jot that down? Instead of drinking, instead of eating, or instead of going on a shopping spree at Amazon, write down in that moment, what is it that you're feeling? Don't judge it, just acknowledge it. Now, here's a personal story. Oh my. For those of you that may or may not know me, I spent 40 years in the corporate insurance world. Various insurance products that I sold to agents and brokers. And the last part of my career was in group benefits. So just to give you a little backstory there, when I hit my lowest point in sales, I was about 3 months behind quota. Now, you know what I'm talking about. You miss your quota for 1 month and then you tell yourself this story, well, I'll make it up next month. And then the next month comes and you didn't even hit that month's quota, let alone the month before. So you start this snowball effect of never hitting quota. Know what I mean? So this was what I was going through. And then all of a sudden, like this is going to help, I started avoiding making prospecting calls. I had convinced myself I was a failure at sales. Sound familiar? The breakthrough came when I finally stopped pretending everything was fine. And I admitted I am burned out and I need help. That admission wasn't defeat. It was the first step towards getting out of burnout. Now, here's the mindset shift. Here's what I need for you to understand. Acknowledging burnout isn't admitting defeat. That's the mindset shift. It's demonstrating self-awareness, which is actually a trait of top performers. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you. Let me tell you this one story really quick of a woman who came to me who had been a top performer for years on after year after year. She got a new manager. All of a sudden, she couldn't do anything right in this manager's eyes. And she just started spiraling downward when she came to me. And I showed her all the evidence of how good she was at selling, but she couldn't see it because her manager lived in her head all the negative things he said to her. It took us about 6 months of working together to get her mindset on correctly, to block that manager's negative input, and for her to get back to the top of her game. And when she had that breakthrough, she closed 3 deals back to back. I cannot express to you how important mindset is. And if your mindset is not correct, you are training your brain to work against you instead of working for you. And this is what I do in my mindset coaching. And see that bar up at that QR bar? That will take you directly to book a coaching session with me if you need help. All right. I didn't mean to put that in there, but this client came to mind and I wanted to share that story with you. So the salespeople who pretend that everything is fine while they're drowning, they're the ones who will eventually quit the industry. And this client I told you about, she was seriously considering quitting. The one who acknowledge struggles and adapt, they become the legends. They become the legends. Now, what you need to do is reframe the moment. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're not failing. You're a high performer whose system needs recalibration. That's it. You need recalibration. So here's an action item for you if you want to write this down. Journal for 10 minutes about your current state. What's really going on with you? How long have you felt this way? What triggered it? So basically, I'm teaching you to coach yourself. This awareness is what your foundation for everything that follows, okay? This awareness is your foundation for everything that follows. Those 3 questions, I'll say it again. What's really going on? How long have you felt this way? What triggered it? All right, let's move to the next slide. Now let's talk about restructuring your sales routine. So you've acknowledged the burnout. It's time to restructure how you're working. Because here's the truth. The routine that got you burnt out won't be the routine that gets you out. Okay? So we're going to talk about the 3 R's of restructuring. The first one is reduce unnecessary activities. So look at your calendar and pipeline. What activities are actually moving deals forward and what's just, busy work making you feel productive, but you're really not productive at all. You know what I'm talking about. If you can, not everyone can do this, cut or delegate excessive administrative tasks that don't require your expertise, meetings that could be emails, low quality leads that drain your energy with no ROI at all. Don't even bother with those. Here's a big one. Perfectionist tendencies on proposals that are already good enough. Don't drive yourself crazy wanting to make it perfect. 9 times out of 10, the prospect just skims those proposals anyhow. So don't allocate a lot of time trying to make it perfect. Okay. Number 2, we're going to reallocate your peak energy hours. And this is really important. Stop prospecting when you're exhausted. That's right. You heard me say that. Stop doing administrative work during your power hours. Now, what are your power hours? Depending on your industry, it could be different. So my framework is this, okay? My power hours are typically between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. That's when I am going after high value prospecting and client meetings. Then midday, usually between 11 and 2, that's when I might do administrative tasks, CRM updates, email follow-ups, or my son works for me part-time, and he is tasked with doing a lot of this work for me. That frees me up for more coaching calls and more sales training. Then in the afternoon, between 2 and 4, this may be when you do your strategic planning, proposal creation, and pipeline review. You should always be reviewing your pipeline every single day. And then at the end of the day, you should have a shutdown ritual. No sales work after 6 p.m. period. When you're in burnout, you've got to have a stop time. And if you work at home, because a lot of salespeople do, when you leave your office, close that door so you're not tempted to look in or to walk back in. So what you're doing in your mind is you are walking out that front door of the office. Your day is over. You close that door. So in your mind, your day is done when it comes to sales. You can refocus now on your family or whatever it is that you do on your off hours. This is really important that you do this. The shutdown ritual also entails looking at your next day and making sure that everything is lined up for your next day. It's just a quick review. It takes me about 5 minutes. It may take you less than that. Okay, and then the third of the R's is rebuild boundaries. This is a non-negotiable. Burnout happens when boundaries disappear. You have to set professional boundaries and you have to set personal boundaries. And if this is hard for you, we go through this in mindset coaching, how to set up boundaries. Let me give you a quick story. This happened back in my group benefit days. And I had only been on the job 6 months and if anybody that's watching this is in group benefits, the last quarter of the year is the craziest part of group benefits. And I wanted to obviously make a good impression because I had only been there 6 months. I had a broker. This is a true story. I had a broker email me on Christmas Day and ask me to do a quote. I kid you not. And like the fool, I did it. Then he came back later, like 3 hours later, and said, I need for you to revise it to X, Y, and Z. And I didn't respond. I did not respond. So the next day is when I did respond. Was he upset with me? Yeah, he was. Did I get the business? No, I didn't. But he learned that he was not going to be able to manipulate me to cover for his crisis. And that's how he laid it out to me. He needed this right away. And I'm sure he probably went to 5 other company reps before he came back to me. And I was the one that did it, but then I didn't do it anymore after that. I should have set that clear boundary in the beginning by not even answering his email on Christmas Day. That's what I mean by non-negotiable boundaries. I learned a big lesson that day. Doesn't happen anymore. So let's talk about the mindset shift you need around boundaries first. So many salespeople, especially women, are typically do this. They believe that boundaries make them less committed, less ambitious, or less successful. And that's a lie. Boundaries actually make you more committed, more ambitious, and more successful. You have to have boundaries. Boundaries don't limit success, they protect it. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're sustainable. They're protecting you. The most successful long-term sales professionals I know are absolutely, they're masters at protecting their energy. Now, when you set boundaries, you're actually showing up as a better salesperson. You're more present in client conversations. You're more creative in problem solving, and you're more resilient in handling objections and rejection. Boundaries don't make you less, they make you more. So set these boundaries immediately. Write this down. No checking email before 8 a.m. or after 6 p.m. No weekend client calls unless it's a true emergency, and define what that means. Or, and this happened to me, I had a prospect that I had been trying to get a hold of for over a year. And I sent him a final email, and he called me immediately and said, Christine, I'm getting ready to get on an airplane. If you will call me Sunday at 7 a.m., I will take your call. I am so sorry. I've been traveling nonstop. I made an exception for him. I called Sunday at 7 a.m. He took my call. We had a great conversation and sealed the deal. So there are exceptions. There's no apologizing for taking your lunch break. And oh my gosh, hear me when I say this. No accepting verbal abuse from prospects or clients ever, ever. I got a story about that too. I'll save that for another day. No saying yes to every request from your manager without negotiating priorities. Hear me when I say this. No saying yes to every request from your manager without negotiating priorities. You have a right to do that. So your mindset mantra is you need to tell yourself, my boundaries are not barriers to success. They are the foundation of it. And that is so true, everyone. So here is an action item for you. All right. Block out your ideal week in your calendar. Protect your energy like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. And here's one more tip. Every morning, whatever hour that is, that's your hour of power. You don't look at emails. You're not making calls. All you're doing is focusing on you and the upcoming day and having a mental rehearsal about how that day is going to unfold and what you're going to do during that day. All right, let's get to the next slide. Reconnect with purpose. Here's where we really get to the heart of the matter. You didn't get into sales to feel miserable, did you? You didn't get into sales to feel miserable. There's a reason you chose this career. So we need to connect with purpose. What's that purpose for you? Because burnout often happens when we lose sight of the meaning behind our work. We get caught up in quotas, commissions, pleasing the boss, pipeline metrics, and we forget why we're actually doing this. You know why I do what I do? You know why I became a sales coach? Because I never had a mentor. I never had anyone that pulled me aside and said, there's an easier way to do this, Christine. Here's what you do. Or here's a quicker way. No one ever helped me. Even though I tried to get help, no one did. And I became a sales coach to make a difference in the world of sales reps by giving them my 50 years of experience to shorten that learning curve. That's why I decided to become a sales coach. That's my why. That's my purpose. And that's why I choose to do it to this day instead of retiring like my friends down in the villages of Florida who play golf and play bridge all day. That is not me. I have to know that I'm making a difference in people's lives and that I'm helping people that need the help. Okay, now I want you to do this right now. All right. Think back to your best day in sales, the very best day you ever had in sales, not your biggest commission check, your most fulfilling day. Do you have that in your mind? Do you have that one sale in your mind that just made you glad that you were a salesperson? Maybe it was solving a problem for a client that genuinely improved their business. Maybe it was helping a first-time buyer get into their dream home. Maybe it was landing a deal after months of relationship building. Maybe it was mentoring a new sales rep who looked up to you. What made that day meaningful? That feeling, that's your why. Write down that feeling. Why was that day meaningful? That's your why. All right. Now, this is where we're going to reframe our daily activities. This is where mindset becomes your superpower because the stories you tell yourself about your work directly impacts whether you burn out or you thrive. So think of scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. Now, this isn't new age woo-woo. That's not what this is. Scarcity is, just stay with me. Scarcity is you're saying to yourself, I have to make 50 cold calls today or I'll fail. Or you just say, the boss is making me do 50 cold calls today. Now, when you're in an abundance mindset, you think, oh, wow, I get to connect with 50 potential clients who might need my solution. Even if only 5 engage, that's 5 opportunities I didn't have yesterday. Or even if it's only one person that I finally get to and they engage, that's one opportunity I didn't have yesterday. Scarcity. Ooh, I need to close 3 deals this month or I'm worthless. Have you ever said that? If I can't close 3 deals, what am I even doing here selling? Abundance is I'm helping 3 businesses transform their operations this month and building relationships with 20 others for future opportunities. Hear how that sounds differently? The self-talk is so important, especially catching it and then reframing it. So if you say, oh my gosh, all I get is no, I'm really bad at sales, stop yourself and your reframe is going to be, and I know you've heard this, every no, like it or not, is bringing me closer to a yes. I'm just finding people who need my product or service. If they say no, that's okay. They didn't need me, but there's people out there that do need me. So what I'm trying to convey to you is there's a difference between catching a negative thought, reframing it. And I'm not talking about toxic positivity. I'm not asking you to pretend rejection doesn't sting or missing quota feels good. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm asking you to change the narrative from I'm failing to I'm learning and growing. Big difference. So the growth mindset in sales is this. Top performers see challenges as opportunities to level up, not evidence of inadequacy. When you hit an obstacle, ask yourself, what is this teaching me? How is this making me better? What would the version of me who's already succeeded do right now? What would the successful me do right now? Language matters. Purpose matters. Meaning is the antidote to burnout. You are a problem solver who creates value, and your best work is ahead of you. Did you know that? You're a problem solver who creates value, and your best work is ahead of you. Write that down. The other action item I want you to do is write your sales mission statement, not your company's, yours. One paragraph about why you do what you do and who you're here to serve. Read it every morning before you start your day. Okay, do that. Let's go to slide 5. We're almost finished. This is the strategic rest. Oh, the strategic rest. Sales cultures rarely prioritize rest. I worked for a company who said that they pride themselves in work-life balance, right? Except when I had 4 weeks of PTO in the bank unused and my dad was dying in hospice and my boss refused to let me off 2 days to be with him. All of a sudden, the work-life balance didn't stand behind me, the employee that needed help because my dad was dying. Think about that. My boss actually told me, you can see your dad before work and after work. I was not going to let my dear dad die alone. He never knew this, but I quit. I sent my boss my resignation and I quit. And 10 days later, I was with my dad and he died. I was right there with him when he died. And I never, ever wanted someone to tell me ever again when I could and could not have time off. No, I mean, I could not believe I was living through that, but that's an actually true story. On my LinkedIn profile, by the way. So you need to prioritize rest because your company and your boss isn't going to do it for you. And I don't mean just sleep. I mean strategic, intentional recovery. One of the things that I used to do is I'm not a big traveler because I traveled all the time when I was in sales, in corporate insurance sales. So when I took vacation time, I just wanted to stay home because I traveled so much. I would usually use my PTO to take off a Friday or a Monday, so I'd have long weekends. That's generally how I used my PTO. Maybe you've got a different strategy, but I had a strategy. And then at the end of the year, the between December 26th and January 3rd, I would take that time off as well for PTO. I always had a strategy for my PTO time because you got to remember this. You can't pour from an empty cup. You got to take care of yourself. And in sales, we're constantly pouring energy, right? Energy into prospects, enthusiasm into presentations. You always have to feel on when you're in sales. And you have to have the resilience in handling objections. If you're not refilling that cup, you'll burn out. It's not if, it's when. And pushing through it will just make it worse. So here's the framework for strategic rest. Rest is not laziness. If you feel like lounging around on Saturday, that's not laziness. That's something your body is telling you you need. Rest is not falling behind. Rest is a strategic competitive advantage. This whole hustle culture in sales has convinced you that working 70-hour weeks and never taking breaks makes you successful. No, it doesn't. It makes you exhausted, ineffective, and eventually unemployed because you'll either burn out or get fired for underperformance. If you're one of these that has a wonderful manager that supports all of this, stay with that person. They're out there, I know. But if you don't, you have to develop your own strategic plan for resting. Because the top performers know this. Your brain needs downtime to process information, make connections, and come up with creative solutions. Your brain needs that. Your body needs to recover to maintain the energy sales requires. Your spirit needs joy to sustain motivation. Because motivation doesn't last, as you all know. When you rest strategically, you're not doing less. You're positioning yourself to do more at a higher level. Makes sense? So your mindset shift is this. Stop glorifying exhaustion. Stop glorifying the hustle mentality. Start celebrating restoration. The sales people bragging about working weekends, they're not the ones you want to aspire to be. Aspire to be the one who works smart, rests intentionally, and still crushes quota. It can be done, everyone. Here's the framework for strategic rest. Number one, these are your daily recharge rituals. You've got a morning reset, 10 minutes of movement, meditation, or journaling before checking your phone. Now, I always talk about keeping a success journal of all your wins, large and small. Why are you doing this? Why are you journaling your wins? Because when you hit a slump, and you will, and when you get burned out, and you will, you can go back to that success journal and see all the evidence that you are a good, effective, successful salesperson. Then I want you to take a midday break. a real lunch away from your desk with no sales content at all. You are putting on blinders, and this is your time. Then I want you to do a transition ritual, 15-minute activity that separates work from personal time. All right? Go for a walk, work out, have a hobby. You're just going to transition into that. Remember when I said if you work at home, you're going to close that door of your office because your day is ended. Now transition into an activity that separates your mind from work. Now you're into your personal time. Then you're going to have an evening wind down. And you know what I'm going to say, right? No screen 1 hour before the bed. Now, this is true, everyone. Every time I can't sleep at night, I always think back, well, I didn't do my 1 hour of reading before bedtime. I was on the screen. I read all kinds of different books. I'm a huge reader, as you can see in my bookcase, and that's not even all my books. So either take a bath, connect with loved ones, read a book, do something that you start to feel like you're winding down. Do deep breathing exercises. That's another really good one. And then you're going to do weekly recovery. 1 full day with 0 sales related activities. No email, no LinkedIn, no just checking my pipeline, none of that. So you're mentally making that break. Okay. Schedule something you genuinely enjoy. Hobby, social time, nature, creative outlet. Mine is I'm schedule time with my son and his family to see my little grandson. Or he and I will just have dinner one night out together. And he and I are politics enthusiasts, you can say, and we talk about world events. Breaks the mind from the work. Physical movement that's not exercise, like dancing or playing with your children or your grandchildren, or exploring by, going on a walk in nature, bird watching. I like to do that too. Then you're going to do a quarterly reset. You're going to take actual time off. Use your PTO. Go somewhere that has nothing to do with sales. Now, this is what I hear from a lot of salespeople, and I used to think this way too. But I can't take time off. I'll lose momentum. I'll fall behind on quota. I'll miss opportunities. Here's the reality, though. After I'd been through that cycle year after year, decade after decade, the reality is this. You're more likely to miss quota because you're burned out than because you took a strategic week off to recover. Some of my best sales months came immediately after I took real time off. Why? Because I came back energized, creative, and excited to re-engage with prospects again. So here's your action item. Schedule your next day off, your next weekend getaway, and your next real vacation. Write it down now. Put them in your calendar as non-negotiable appointments with yourself. Think of it as this non-negotiable appointment you would never miss if it was an important prospect, right? Make it that important. Now, here's the bonus tip for long-term burnout prevention. So we've covered the 4 core steps. Now I want to give you just a little more strategies to prevent burnout from creeping back in. So the first one is build your sales support system. Don't isolate, connect with other sales professionals who get it. I used to connect with my competitors. I would have lunch with my competitors once a month. That's what I would do. Number 2, celebrate small wins. Stop waiting for the big deal to feel successful. Celebrate the great discovery call you had, the positive email responses, the objection you handled beautifully. Positive reinforcement prevents burnout. Number 3, diversify your identity. You are not a salesperson. Invest in hobbies. Or I should say, you are not just a salesperson. Invest in hobbies, relationships, and interests outside of work. When your entire identity is tied to your quota attainment, burnout is inevitable. And then track your energy, not just your activities. Keep an energy journal for 2 weeks. I've done this lots of times. Note what activities give you energy versus drain it. Then restructure your approach to maximize energizing activities. And then number 5, negotiate your goals. So if your quota is genuinely unattainable and setting you up for burnout, have the courage to have a conversation with your manager. Have a realistic plan ready to give him or her. And if they won't listen, it might be time to find a company that values sustainable performance. Now, I'm not saying go out and quit your job. I'm saying have a discussion with your manager first. And then last, invest in professional support. There's no shame in working with a coach. Sales is a psychologically demanding profession. They teach you all day long how to, all about the psychology of the buyer, but who's teaching you about the psychology of the seller? That's what I do. That's what I do. And it's not a weakness, it's a strength. And it's a strength that your competitors don't know about. So recovering from sales burnout isn't a one-day fix. It's a process. It requires commitment, self-compassion, and probably some uncomfortable changes. But you can absolutely come back stronger and wiser and more resilient than before. So you got into sales because you're ambitious, driven, and talented. You burnt out. Your burnout doesn't erase those qualities. Let me say that again. You got into sales because you're ambitious, driven, and talented. Your burnout doesn't erase those qualities. It's just a signal that something needs to change in how you're approaching your career. That's all it is. So let's go back to the beginning. You're going to recognize the signs, restructure your routine, reconnect with purpose, and then strategically rest. And then the last one. I hope this video helped you today. And I would like to talk to you a little bit about my exclusive Mindset Reset Lifeline coaching sessions. Now, this is for sales professionals who are ready to completely transform their relationship with sales, eliminate burnout for good, and build a career that energizes them instead of draining them. And here's what we'll do together in a personalized Lifeline session. You can scan the QR code in the upper corner, if you want to go right to it. But we'll do a deep dive diagnosis of what's really causing your burnout, not surface level symptoms, but root causes. We're going to customize your mindset reset strategy to tailor to your specific sales role, challenges, and goals. This is not cookie cutter coaching. I don't do that. This is always specific to every client. We're going to do a boundary blueprint that protects your energy without sacrificing your income. And we're going to rebuild your confidence and give you techniques to do that to get you back in your game feeling powerful. You'll have a 30-day action plan with accountability check-ins to ensure you actually implement what we discuss. Now, as I said, this isn't generic coaching. And if you decide after this 90-minute session that you want to move on to a coaching package, I will refund your sales lifeline cost to you when you move on to a coaching package. I'll do that for you because I've been where you are. I've climbed out, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do the same. So these sessions are limited because I only take on clients I know that I can genuinely help. And I cap my coaching spots to ensure everyone gets my full attention. So either click the link in the description area or go to the QR code at the top and scan it and book your Sales Lifeline coaching session. The investment details and testimonials are all there. So your breakthrough is waiting. Your breakthrough is waiting. Don't let another month go by feeling the way you feel right now, especially going into the holidays and the end of the year. You deserve better. Your career deserves better. Let's make it happen together. So subscribe to this channel. Drop me a comment. We don't have any comments, but I see we have people viewing. What's one boundary you're going to set this week to protect yourself from burnout? Would you drop that in the comment? I'd like to hear from you. And remember, you're not just surviving sales. You're conquering it. Now, go be savvy out there. And you know how I always end. Stay savvy. Thank you for watching. I'll be back Thursday with more free training. I'm your one-stop destination for sales. Bye-bye.